Hi again, people. I'm trying to mess with this little screen here, trying to figure out how to work my little screen, so if I screw it up, sorry. This is an interesting case. So I'm going to talk about a little psychological interviews, how it works, how important this is, what I think about this. I'm not real sure of this change, but I guess I get it. So let's take a look at what's going on here.
9 dozens of Alameda County deputies are now on desk duty after failing their psychological evaluation.
Okay, that's a little misleading. They didn't fail it. They passed it when the D was a passing grade. And I don't, sometimes agencies will say, we don't want to hire A people. We only want to hire B, C, and D people. Some agencies will say, it sounds like POST, which is a standard, Peace Officer Standards and Training for California, it sounds like they have changed the standard that you can't. See, what happens when you're, let me make my screen here bigger. When you're in hiring and you lower standards because you need people of different sex, color, religion, whatever your social standards are, you don't really have a standard for hiring. You have a standard, but if the standard works for, let's say, white people, then we'll only hire so many white people, then we'll stop using that standard. And then we'll use a different standard for, let's say, females, or for blacks, or Hispanics, or Asian, or whatever. Depending on what you're trying to fill, you can adjust, any agency can adjust or lower the standard. So, me as a white guy, even though I identify as black sometimes, me as a white guy, if the standard is I have to get, let's say, a B, and there's 30 people that got a B, and they only need 2 white officers, once they give 2 people hiring jobs, that's it. Even though they have 10 other positions. Then they may have to take C's, then they may have to take D's or F's or whatever their grading system is. It sounds like D used to be a passing grade, and now POST has said no longer. So these guys didn't fail it. They passed under the standard, which I think is bullshit. They should have been grandfathered. But me personally, I think they ought to give cops psychological exams every 3 or 4 years anyway. I mean, the job kind of changes you. It's in, you know, I talk about where that one girl was working child abduction for, or not child abduction, kiddie porn for a while. And then when she got out of it, she was a mess. She ended up trying to kill herself. And it's just, you know, when you're dealing with some of these jobs that are so emotionally, you know, dragging on you, I got no problem with doing psycho. I got no problem doing a P test. I never took a P test. I take that back. I think one time I did get hit for some random for the county, not for a cop. Because I work for the county did a random drug test, and my social security number or the number that it started with or whatever came up, and I had to go take a P test. Not because I was a cop, because I was a county employee and they pulled a random number. As a cop, I've never had to go take a P test. Never. And be honest, I don't give a shit. They give truck drivers P tests. See if they're on drugs. Why the hell not? I mean, you know, Jeff Reisig, the DA, I'm pretty sure he was taking steroids all the time. He doesn't have to take a P test. He's out there getting charged who goes to prison, who doesn't, who he tries to kill, and death penalty. If you watch my Jeff Reisig series, he's the crookedest DA in California. But I digress. Let me get back to this video.
We're going to discuss the case that led to those demotions. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Vicki Leviakis.
And I'm Grant Lotus.
I just have to say that Vicki is rocking that pink shirt. And I would like to say that on my horse channel because the horsewomen think I'm always cracking on pink because crazy horsewomen buy everything in pink even though it's shitty and it hurts the horse because it's pink, they buy it. So when I crack on pink all the time, they go, why do you hate pink? I don't hate pink. Here's a perfect example. Vicki's rocking that pink shirt. But I digress.
The arrest of Deputy Devin Williams is what sparked this internal...
Okay, so the arrest of Devin, if you remember, this Devin dude, here's the deputy. He kind of got arrested, kind of got caught up in this little killing thing. And he was passed with a D on his psychological exam. Why, Rick? Why did they pass him? Well, sometimes you have to lower the standard for certain people. He may have got the same standard as the white guy. I don't know. But I'm telling you, agencies always lower the standard, which is why there is no standard, which is why it pisses me off when you people come here and go, they need more training. Their training sucks. Their training doesn't suck. It's accountability. You can give me training for 500 years. if I'm not held accountable, why the hell do I care about my training and why do I have to follow it? It's accountability, not training. Stop putting in the comments, they need more training. That just shows you haven't been watching me for a while, because anybody that knows watching me knows it ain't a freaking training issue. It's an accountability issue. So he ended up, I think he was dating this woman. He ended up killing the husband and the wife because she went back to the husband. So, and because of that, they looked and they went, oh shit, he got a D on a psychological exam. Well, let's see how many other people got a D. Now, they're not saying out of the 47 or 48 people that got Ds that were relieved of duty, they're not mentioning what sex they are or what color they are. Well, Rick, color shouldn't matter. Color always matters when they're trying to push their bullshit agenda. It only doesn't matter when it hurts their agenda. So I don't have a problem. I'd like to know what the 40 people, how many are women, how many are black, how many are Hispanic, how many are white. I'd like to know. The government keeps track of all that shit, but they just don't like to tell it. The pesky citizen. Here we go.
Audit. He's now behind bars, accused of killing 2 people recently. Crown 4's Amanda Harry joins us now live from the newsroom with why the department.
Good evening. The Alameda County Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer tells me it's because of a law change. Prior to 2016, receiving a D on your exam was considered passing. Now it's considered a fail.
Okay, so the state of California obviously did something and said, we can't pass Ds anymore. Me personally, I don't think I could pass the psychological eval. Most cops say they couldn't pass the psychological eval. Why? Because it's just too, once you're in the job, you know, when I take my psychological exam, it's like, well, how many guns you have? Oh, I got a few. Well, what do you think about this? And, you know, and I'm very kind of mild-mannered. I'm not, after working a while, I'm like, I don't give a shit. Guy pulls a gun, I'm going to blow his head off. If you say that in a freaking interview, they'll be like, oh, this guy's too aggressive. Oh, he's a meat eater. You know, they probably ask now, do you eat meat or tofu? What's your favorite food? And that may be a mark off. Psychological exams are absolutely not objective. They are subjective. Whatever the person wants. If the psychological person doing you likes you, she can pass you or fail you. If she doesn't like you, she can fail you. So it's totally, and almost all my psychological exams were done by women. I had a couple guys. There was this one guy out of Solano County who was a complete asshole. I mean, he just tried to push your buttons the whole time. He treated you like shit and just see if he could get a rise out of you. He was kind of a dick. But I digress. So anyway, this psychological eval, is it a big deal? It's all smoke and mirrors. It doesn't matter. If they need to hire somebody, they're going to hire them and they'll change the standard. Guess who pays the psychologist to do the psych eval? The department. The government. Guess who sets the standard? The department. The government. So if a department only wants people that don't know what bathroom to use, they're going to tell the psychologist, look, if they go in there and they're really a strong male or strong female, we don't want them. We only want people confused on what bathroom to use. Then that's how they'll dictate the psychological exam, and that's how they determine who passes and fails. So this to me, this is not a big deal. It's bullshit. They're all going to retake the test, and everyone that they want to keep, they will pass. And everyone that they want to get rid of, they will say, sorry, you didn't pass. We got to get rid of you. Which I think that the cops are going to be able to fight this. You can't be a cop on the road, no disciplinary action. You're doing your job. And now all of a sudden, because the state changes the rule, you can't do that. That's like saying, all right, when you come in, you have to be this weight. Okay, everybody not over this weight 10 years from now gets fired. They just don't do that. So they're not going to be able to fire these people. These guys are getting paid. They're not working. They're going to re-psych eval them, and then they're going to be back on the road. Matter of fact, one person's already back on the road.
We're being transparent and coming forward and acknowledging the issue.
You ain't being transparent. Somebody leaked this shit. You thought you were going to get caught. Government ain't ever voluntarily transparent. That's bullshit.
That went on here.
On Friday, 47 Alameda County Sheriff's
47.
deputies were stripped of their duties as law enforcement officers after receiving a letter from Sheriff Gregory Ahern.
Obviously, this was very devastating news to them. They had no idea that they did not have the passing score that was required. So a lot of them were in shock when they were initially delivered the news.
Lieutenant Ray Kelly with the sheriff's office says they did an audit of their department after one of their deputies, Devin Williams, was arrested in connection to a double homicide. That's when Kelly says the office determined that a D, not suited, is no longer considered a passing grade.
As we looked into
So she just said a D, not suited. If a D is not suited, how do they pass? Because we needed certain people of certain things so we could say we're woke, socially acceptable, whatever the hell the reason they're trying.
to the files, we began to see that the rules had changed and the information and guidance that we were given from the state was inaccurate, and that the scores that we thought were passing were just below passing. And as a result of that, the people that we had employed would not.
That we employed and gave guns and were out there making arrests and involved in court cases and everything. So if they're not able to be cops, all these 47 that are gone, if they have any pending court cases, the DA should dismiss them because they're not qualified to be a cop. This is what goes into figuring out how we're going to handle this. So believe me, this is going to be a big whitewash. They may get rid of one or two people they don't like out of these 47 and use this as an excuse. Otherwise, they're all going to take the test. They're all going to suddenly pass. And everybody's going to be happy, and they're going to get to say we were transparent, and freaking pesky citizens like, oh, that's good. We should pay more taxes, and if we only had more cops, and we should give up our guns. Freaking idiots.
Not qualify with their psychological exams to be peace officers.
The deputies who failed will be on desk duty until they take the test again and pass.
So real cops hate desk duty. Lazy, beta, tofu-eating cops love desk duty. So the real cops are the only ones that are kind of like feeling, want to sit behind a damn desk and take bullshit phone calls and freaking deal with people in the public and shit. I'd rather be out there chasing freaking criminals. But, you know, they don't want to hire those people. They fail the test.
Pass it. Kelly says the test is not as straightforward as an SAT or IQ exam.
Of course it's not straightforward as a SAT. It's very subjective. It's whatever the psychologist wants to grade you and rate you on.
It's based on your emotional intelligence and a bunch of other factors. Young people, fresh out of college, with very little life experience, very little work experience, tend to not do as well on the psychological exams as people with more life experience.
Kelly says
he says that, and most cops hired are between 21 and 22. Maybe 23, maybe 21 or 24. Most cops are very young when they're hired.
The retest will be conducted by a peace officer standards and training or
that's post. Peace officer standard and training is just post certification for California.
Post certified psychologist who does not work for the sheriff's office.
That's kind of BS. They do work for it. If the sheriff's department says, hey, we've sent you 10 candidates and you failed them all, what are you doing? We're going to stop sending you people if you keep failing our candidates. Then the psychologist goes, oh, do I want to keep making free, easy money from the government? Or do I want to keep failing these people? And suddenly the pass rate goes up. Shocking.
He believes most of the officers will want to test again. But for now, the about 1,000 remaining sworn personnel will be taking on a heavier load.
We estimate that it'll
average. Poor. They're going to take on a heavier load. Shame. Shocking.
About 20 extra overtime shifts will be added per week that need to be filled. We feel it's manageable on a short-term basis while we get the testing done.
One deputy has already...
I want to know how many of those people have tattoos, color, race, religion, sex, whether they're bald. Those are the things that I am concerned about. Rick, why do you
taken the test again, passed it, and has been reinstated. Lieutenant Kelly tells me any deputies that do not pass the retest will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Case-by-case mean we'll let them retake it, or we'll say, no, you can't retake it. Hey, my grip just came in. Amazon's delivering my grip. My racquetball grip is kind of coming off, so I had to order a new grip. Anyway, I digress. All right, so this is the scoop on psychological exams. It's not as a big deal as people think. They did this thing. A couple people made comments. Hey, man, what do you think about that? I think it's just BS. They lowered the standard. Every agency is going to have to do that. Like I said, I think every 3 or 4 or 5 years, cops ought to have to take a psych eval. I guarantee you, the psych eval they give a cop after 5 years is different than the one they're hiring new. Okay? They even tell you when a psychologist comes in and you go back for a psych eval because you're in a shooting or you change jobs or you're on a SWAT team or you're in a traumatic incident or whatever, the test you take the second time after you've been a cop is different, a different grading scale than what you take when you get hired. It's all bullshit. That's why there's no standards. If it was objective and it was like 1, 2, 3, you must do 1, 2, 3 to pass, I got no problem with it. But if it's objective, then you can't stock the hiring and you can't change and go, oh, we don't have enough minorities, we don't have enough women, we don't have enough people that don't know what bathroom to use, we don't have this. Then you can't do that if there's a real standard. So it's all subjective to whatever they want it to be to fit the freaking whatever agenda woke thing of the day is. All right, so I figured I'd cover it. Y'all have a good one. We'll end that there.